Okay. Okay. Everyone's good. We're good. All right. So here's the dog.
Nice.
Look at that dog.
I like what you did with the dog since yesterday.
Yeah. One of the big challenges is trying to fit him into like a one spot, because we don't want to have every enemy be a 2 slot. So I kind of had to shrink him a little bit or compress his features.
You had to pick a breed and an aspect ratio of dog that can work as a 1-rank enemy.
And it looks evil. So yeah, I'm just working through the forest enemies, and one of the themes in there is sort of this rotten fungus stuff. So I was just gonna work on this mushroom guy, kind of like a I don't know, corpse that mushrooms are using, like those ants where the mushrooms make them climb up really high and then explode in their heads. Thought it'd be kind of cool if you had like a little bit of person hanging around on him. But I don't know what his attacks are or anything. We haven't really talked about this guy too much.
Oh, so he's a fungus laden. Well, he'll probably have some sort of blight attack, since he's got all these weird spores, and he's in the Weald, right? And I think the pro tip, the Weald is probably heavy on blighters, because the whole forest is basically a little bit corrupted, and, well, a little bit might be an understatement.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. So then, yeah, I thought his attack could be some kind of like stumbling lunge thing. Bleh.
Yeah, he'd have a generic zombie-like attack, and then probably just, basic rank and file physical type enemy, but yeah, then a little bit of blighting, and then if they get in a group and they all start blighting it up, then you might get a bunch of stacked blights, and that could be pretty deadly.
We got our first question.
Cool. What's up? I'm not
From
running the stream at all.
From Steel Soldier, will you be able to rename your characters in the game, or do they come with randomly generated names?
Yes, and yes.
So both.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll come with a name when you recruit them, but you can rename them. So you can definitely make personalize the party so that they have a little bit, it's kind of like we want you to care about them a little bit, so we want you to give them a name, something very dear to you, so that the party member can then die.
Didn't you name your XCOM enemy unknown or whatever, your whole roster after people you knew?
Yeah, that's what I did.
I think that's cool.
Except at the end of XCOM, you can't look at your roster list afterwards, so I wasn't able to post it to Facebook to be like, oh, here's all my friends, and here's how many kills you got, and here's how long you lasted, and what classes you were, and stuff like that. So,
did you name someone like that you don't like, and then surprisingly they turned out to be like your go-to?
No, what happened was I took
you
my
didn't learn any life
friends.
lessons.
I took my closest friends and did them first, so most of them died. And then by the end of it, I was stuck with a bunch of acquaintances.
But they saved the day?
Well, they got through it. I mean, somebody had to.
It's true.
I eventually met my end.
Yeah.
Dang. I lasted longer than I thought, because I was the close assault specialist, wasn't I?
Yeah. But
those guys have a short
Jack
life.
Kelly took you out.
Jack Kelly.
Jacked it?
Yeah.
What a dick.
Oh, he went crazy?
Yeah. Did the old crazy shotgun move.
Ew.
So how is development going? Keir, what have you been working on?
Recently, I've been working on the side effects that occur when you finish activities in town. Such as developing a quirk when you're done in the tavern and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, so all the different treatments that you do in town to address the stress of your heroes. There's we've talked about him a lot at a lot of the interviews and a bit in I'm sure the Kickstarter page, stuff like that. But there's different ways to sort of reduce stress for all the heroes, and some are religious and want to go to the abbey and do things, and some want to go to the tavern and cut loose, just like real life. And if you do too much, generally of any one thing, or really, if you do anything, there's a chance of something bad happens, because that's half the fun of Darkest Dungeon. Just when you think you're safe, you're not. It's kind of like on the George R.R. Martin scale, where we're up definitely above the 50% in terms of bad things happening. And so yeah, you go to the tavern, you drink a lot, you might become an alcoholic, or you might decide that you're going to swear off liquor and never go to the tavern or never go drinking again, and then now you've got to find other activities to reduce the stress on that hero. So since you're managing a team of heroes, that becomes interesting, because you might come back from a mission and one guy's like a hardcore gambler, and so he wants to go in the gambling slot, and that fills the gambling slot, and then you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll put this guy in the drinking slot and send this person over to the church, and then you're kind of having to sort of manage all that stuff going on. This is giving me that Last of Us creepy vibe of the fungusy guys.
I mean, everybody?
Yeah. I mean, it's creepy in a good way.
I want to make him look like he's off balance, but he looks just kind of weird. I think I gotta destroy this one.
That'd be a pretty good, idle animation of him just kind of swaying.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Swaying like a tree in the wind, but he's a mushroom man.
Are you, you could use the old comic standby of give him a word balloon and he says, "I'm off balance."
That's a standby?
That's a standby?
I thought that'd be the last resort.
Well, like you can't, like the old Kirby-esque style comics where classic Marvel, where they have to say everything that they're thinking because they don't actually draw all the action. Just look at the first cover of Fantastic Four #1. It's perfect.
I would have thought Fantastic Four would have started at 4. So they kind of messed up there.
Come on, Keir.
Got a couple
Keir, we
of
got
questions.
Yeah.
Any information about the exclusive character class voting?
Not yet. It's definitely on our minds. So he's talking about the variant. So we've been spending a lot of time working on the main characters, and then what we'll do somewhat soon is put together some options for the variants, and then send those out for voting. And also we'll probably be starting work with the Lord tier backer somewhat soon as well, to fill out the class that he gets to work to design and stuff like that. So those things are definitely on our mind, but there's a certain amount of design that has to happen before we can cut loose with those, because we're still refining a lot about some of the systems. So similarly with the item design and the hero personalization and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to have the behind-the-scenes stuff up and running properly before we start soliciting for the content.
Yeah, especially because I don't even think we're at the point where one character has everything they're going to need in the final version of the game done. Yeah. Once we have that fully spec'd out, it'll be a lot easier to do the Lord tier stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to start on that stuff, somewhat soon, but that's somewhat soon still means at least probably a couple weeks away, if not, a month or two.
So another question. Will what characters need to cope with, example, church or pub, vary or for each class? Vary, or will each class have a particular preference?
So a little bit of both. So some classes will have kind of an innate preference or aversion, if it makes sense with the fiction of the class. So, a Vestal is naturally religious, so there's going to be some advantages to going to the Abbey. But that won't be true with every single class, so that's something that, varies a bit. And then, as you acquire quirks, that can influence it. So, that would be specific to individual recruits. Like, you might have a bounty hunter who becomes religious, say, or something like that. Even if all bounty hunters, as a rule, don't start that way. But yeah, that's, I think, kind of a fun thing, because it creates a little bit of that. It's really a resource allocation thing. You come back and you've got a certain amount of slots open to deal with stress, and you know that this guy prefers this and this guy hates that, and this guy is, addicted to that, so you're not quite sure that's a good idea, and this guy, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's a little bit of a problem for you to solve if you want to be, you can optimize it and figure out the best way to apportion your guys through there, or you can just come back and be like, oh, I don't know, throwing him here, throwing her here. That just depends on how you want to play.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah.
got an art question.
Okay, cool.
Is there a particular reason why you draw with the character on the right or the character on the left? Is there specific things that are easier for you?
No, it's just it's a good idea to flip the canvas, because it'll make your kind of perspective mistakes pop out to you. So I keep flipping things back and forth, and especially on our game, because everything's from the side anyway. I need to make sure that he looks okay from either side. Even though, as we have it set up, the heroes are always on the left. You never know.
Yeah. Got a question from Kojipo. Will this mushroom man have eyes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Um,
So he acts on some sort of sonar level? Or like,
I guess it's meant to be kind of like a person that's just got mushrooms growing all over them,
So gross.
and then it's kind of twisted up from it.
Creeps me out. Creeps me out.
Speaking of
Oh,
creeping
yes.
out,
Someone had an
another
idea.
question. Sorry.
Oh, another question. Okay, yeah. No, I was just gonna say, someone earlier said "bad trip" with the mushrooms. That would be a great name for the
For a
for
move?
the monster.
Or
It's
a
called
quirk.
Bad trip.
Like a hallucinogenic.
For the
Oh, yeah.
mushroom boss, his name should be Bad Trip. Sounds like a WWF wrestler.
Or maybe they can infect you with kind of a fungal sickness, and then that's the name of the disease. Yeah. Okay. Question bus. Beep beep. Serve it up.
Is there a max amount of characters that can be idle in the town? Or does the max value increase as the town gets upgraded with new buildings and stuff? Asks Steel Soldier.
I love yes questions. I'm all about the double yes today. So yeah, your roster size will be limited. That's something we're going to play around with in playtesting, because we have like a guess. I would say 12 to 15 to 20, but we also probably want to tie that to upgrading on some level. Actually, I forget. I had that in one of my. I'm trying to
Be a
remember
good stagecoach upgrade.
Yeah, like Stagecoach already. That's where you recruit guys, and that has number of recruits and the classes that you can recruit. There's somewhere that, yeah, I can't remember. There's somewhere that I tied to roster, but yeah, the idea is we want. We don't want to excessively limit you, but we also don't want you losing track of like the 65 heroes you have, because you just recruit all 4 every time you go to the Stagecoach after every mission, and then it just. That kind of does a little bit away with the feeling we're trying to promote, which is that you're the heir to this estate, but you're of somewhat limited means, and recruiting is. Oh yeah, go for it.
I was going to ask if you have to pay to recruit heroes.
Currently, no. It's kind of assumed like the heroes come a little bit for their own. Just like in the first Terran Madness trailer, they're kind of coming a little bit for their own fame and fortune. But you're assumed to be paying them something after every mission, and even if we're not quite sure yet whether we're going to show that or not. it is conceivable that we could end up making you pay to recruit, and that's kind of just a game balance thing. Or, especially if we decide, right now we don't make recruits come in different levels, but if we wanted, like, occasionally a veteran comes in, then he might cost more to recruit. That's all stuff that it's interesting from a design perspective. You build up the sort of the infrastructure for how it works, and then you play around with like the different options to see what's fun. But I think right now, you after every mission you go and you see, oh, there's 4 new guys who came to town. Do I want any of them? And if you've got some open roster slots, you probably want to take some guys. But if your roster is full, then you might not want to just grab everybody that comes to town.
So the question bus just picked up another passenger.
Is there still room on board, or is
There's always room on the question bus.
Okay.
Will we be able to tell weaknesses or strengths of opponents based on visual cues?
Yes.
I mean, I look at a mushroom guy and I'm like, that guy can't take an ace for shit.
Oh, sorry. Visual cues of the actual. Sorry, I was thinking like UI elements.
Yeah, the tooltip isn't a visual cue.
Old Tyler and the tooltips. Tooltip
Yeah.
Sigman.
I'm team tooltip.
Why, sure, we're gonna have a tooltip for that.
I'm like the tooltip Terminator. Like, go back to original Terminator when you get the Terminator view of him like targeting shit. That's how I see everything.
You're
just
like the Frank
tooltips
Underwood
and...
of tooltips. Tyler will tooltip. Tyler wants the whole game to be a tooltip.
I'm all tooltips.
I'm
mostly about tooltips.
Bringing information to the masses.
You're a man of the people, Tyler.
Yeah. So I guess we're getting. So as far as like, you mean, can you look at him and say, okay, well, he looks burly, so I'm going to infer. I mean,
I would think so.
Yeah, like obviously Chris is doing an awesome job at the creative direction as far as like, he's going to make things that are more dangerous, more threatening, and things like that. But I mean, there's some stuff you have to learn. Like you'll see the skeleton captain, you're like, oh, he's big and he's got a giant mace. Uh-oh. But you might see a little maggot and be like, aha, he's kind of cute. And then when it chews your face off, then you're like, okay, well, note to self, those little small maggots are a little more dangerous than I had anticipated.
Yeah, so you'll kind of learn as you fight, because you'll fight enemies multiple times. So
yeah,
you'll learn
Will their
like,
tooltips get updated if I fight them more than one time?
We've talked about that.
Yeah, that's where we would like to go. A little bit Diablo style there.
Final Fantasy did it too.
A little. So yeah, you encounter a guy and it's like question mark, or just no information. And then when he does, his moves, then you start putting together a little bit of a database of what he can do. But
it'd be really funny just to do it based on the lines of the tooltips. So we just increase the amount of lines that can be displayed.
Oh, and so the content's always there, but you're just hiding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a quick way of doing it without a lot of thought.
Yeah. The mushroom guy is weak to hot fire.
How does this guy work?
What guy?
This mushroom guy. Does he read?
I feel like color is really gonna make those mushrooms pop.
Let me try something here.
But I like the silhouette. I mean, he's got a mushroom for a head with like a side mushroom head.
Yep, he does.
So, I mean, it speaks to me mushroom. Crazy idea. They all look kind of a similar shape of mushroom. Maybe we could have some of those like long stringy mushrooms.
Not a bad idea. What I've noticed though, little stuff like this doesn't read because our backgrounds are usually black, so it turns into just this like it ends up looking like a graphics error. But I don't disagree. Mayhaps I can work something in here.
Like a little mushroom ponytail. Well, what's going on?
Is that his little shoulder perch-mounted mushroom buddy?
This is his EMP cannon.
Yeah. The cultist looks like he's doing a little bit of the staying alive move right now. It's kind of awesome.
Oh yeah, this is an old.
He's got a good like wind machine in front of him, propping up his jacket.
He only poses for shots if there's a wind machine. He's such a glamour.
Mm-hmm. And yet, paradoxically, he puts so much wax on his mustache that he wants it to not move in the wind machine.
Well, the mushrooms have light faces in them, like baby faces? Jesus. I don't think so. Because I don't really want to draw this many tiny little babies in here. And I just had a baby, so I don't really want to envision babies trapped in mushroom creatures.
It's close to home.
Maybe a little too much, yeah.
The great mushroom baby sacrifice of 1920.
It's weird. I feel like off my conversational game. I should probably apologize, but I've just been living in this world of working, parenting, surviving, sleeping.
Well, I mean, me and Tyler are here to alleviate some of the conversational burden.
Oh yeah, of course, and I do appreciate it. Just obviously,
so,
you guys can't do what I do, so.
Well,
just
can't do it as well.
I would like to do an art stream one day, just for fun.
Well, I was really hoping you were just going to have the baby in the middle of the stream and then throw the keys over here, and then I was just going to pick up.
Right. We're going to do one with Brooks next time, I think, where he's going to take the Necromancer boss and do his idle animation. And that'll be cool.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be...
The amount of magic he makes from your static drawings is cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
So, speaking of conversational burden, we got another question.
Sweet.
Do you guys plan specific things to higher the replay value, like enemies learning using new attacks in New Game Plus or something?
I think... Yeah, I don't know.
We kind of got to finish the game to have a New Game Plus.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is, I think it's a little bit more the approach of trying to make sure that we have enough content in that, maybe you don't even see all of it as much, so that, if you New Game Plus it, obviously it's harder, but, you would like, oh, okay, I'm fighting more of these guys this time just because that's the way the probabilities shook out last time, but, yeah, that's a tough one to answer up front, as opposed to, say, like, new moves, but the progression is always something that you have to consider those things for, because obviously on one hand you can just scale up attacks and hit points and things like that, but it is fun to be able to drop new things in, so I wouldn't rule it out, but right now we're very much still trying to solve the within the first game type challenges. Yeah. Even though, I mean, we do talk about New Game Plus and it's on our minds because we want to support that. But right now it's kind of like working out the progression of the main game because even within that, we need to have monster variants and there's kind of different ways to do difficulty there. And so it's possible that whatever we work out for that could translate directly into New Game Plus. So cool. Yeah, it's a tough one to answer definitively. Yeah.
We're going to know more about what what type of unlocks or progression stuff feels good once we have the core game working, and so then that'll help us decide too how to handle things like New Game Plus, like because we'll know what works well and what's worth repeating or enhancing or making more challenging.
Yeah, and it's been a fun time for us because we're in such just pure development mode right now. Chris is drawing monsters and we're designing systems and implementing features, and some of that stuff is like we're going to see, how quickly it goes so that we have a better idea of, okay, just how many monsters can we cram in and just how many, and that some of that dictates how much we rely on like clever systems versus just raw content.
I can't wait for us to have a clever system.
Got a special question. It's the first Jesse question of the day.
Oh, no.
Patience. Very personable. When are you working on a race or enemy theme? What kind of elements do you use to unify them?
Well, I'm trying to I try to keep contrast as a primary consideration. So, for instance, the slime guys, these fungus dudes, I'm using obviously a lot of round shapes, even though they are kind of done in this like angular style or whatever. But the reason I'm going that way is because the forest trees are all really unhealthy concave shapes. Like everything is anemic and has the life sucked out of it, so I thought it'd be cool if the enemies were really, you know, quote unquote, like healthy in this environment. So they have all these like round shapes set against this like, you know, emaciated backdrop of kind of lines like this, just so like from a purely abstract standpoint you can tell that the denizens are healthy at the expense of the environment that they live in. So that's the idea with the forest and the slime and the mushroom guys anyway.
That's cool.
But yeah, so I try and contrast the environment with the characters, and then just make sure that all the characters of a certain faction have a couple of core cues that are important. Like, for instance, a mushroom for a head is not an important thing. Like, if I was going to do another mushroom guy, he probably wouldn't have a mushroom for a head just to make this guy a little bit more interesting. But that's not to say I can't repeat the same shapes and patterns and types of mushrooms on another guy.
We got a pile up of questions.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not looking at the chat, so I'm relying on you.
Will you select what skills you take into a dungeon prior to deploying, or will you always have all your skills available to you?
I
Tyler.
love this question.
Tyler. Did they say Tyler? Was it personable? Like
No, that was me.
Okay. Yeah, right now we're looking at characters have 7 skills, 7 types of skills, and then you would map 4 to 5 of them. We're still experimenting with whether you map those before you go in or whether you can change those like while camping or in a room, that kind of stuff. So we definitely want you to have to choose, and we want you to be able to change, just not change like on the spot. Like in the middle of battle, you can't change. And for simplicity, we might make it so you can only change before you go down to the dungeon. I mean,
I like that.
Yeah, okay. I should say it's simplicity. Maybe is the wrong word. It forces a different strategy and forces you to make the most of, non-ideal circumstances, which is kind of the more like the whole center of the game.
I think it enhances town too, because it plays into that feeling of like, okay, empty out your purse. Let's see what you collected. Like, you can kind of do that with your characters, as opposed to like on the fly maintenance, But we haven't play tested it either way, so.
Also, one thing is that when the heroes come in, at least right now, they start with random... Well, not random, but of their possible skills, they start with certain ones. So, of the 8 skills, your hero's going to come in with 3 of them, and...
But that won't be like that when we start recruiting, like, newbie guys. It'll be like he has, like, 1 skill, and you gotta pay to play.
Oh, really?
That was always my assumption. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're exploring the ideas of starting heroes with different skills of the same class.
Yeah, the thing we know for sure is that all classes are going to have more skills than you can map in.
Yeah. So
you're always going a little bit like, all right, this time I'm going to put the point-blank shot on the highwayman instead of the, stealthy fade or whatever.
I'm really enjoying that as a quick tangent about WildStar. Like, you have these action sets, and you can just kind of trick them out and keep playing and experimenting with builds, kind of like Diablo 3 a little bit. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
So it's about halfway through the stream, and we got a pretty good off-topic question.
Yeah.
All right.
When you defeat the mushroom guy, can you put him on your steak? That was the original question. My question is, where is your favorite place to have mushrooms?
I fucking hate mushrooms. I hate mushrooms.
You're a hater. What about you, Tyler?
That question just seems rife with all kinds of ways that I can stick my foot in the mud.
I like a pepperoni and mushroom pizza. This is a recent development in my taste buds, but that's probably my favorite place to have mushrooms.
I'm a fan of the plain old sautéed mushroom. Like sometimes I used to just do that just for a snack. Just cut them up, sauté them with butter. Nom nom nom.
I've always adhered to the mantra that you can't trust a mushroom eater.
What?
They're weak of character.
What? One strange thing about my my girlfriend is she really doesn't like mushrooms, but likes to pick them. So she's offered to pick mushrooms.
Like in the forest?
Yeah, in the forest. It's a thing her and her family does, but she doesn't eat the mushrooms. She keeps offering to pick me a bunch of mushrooms, but then she won't eat any of them.
Are they good mushrooms or just mushrooms?
Well, I imagine they're like what you... I don't know.
Are they drugs, Keir? Or are they eating mushrooms? Or are they poison?
No, edible mushrooms, not
DMT
like
mushrooms.
hallucinogenic mushrooms. And aren't those usually referred to as shrooms? I've never heard them referred to as mushrooms. But speaking of mushrooms, will this mushroom man have a time limit to kill him before he explodes and spreads spores everywhere?
That's pretty awesome.
Coach Abel.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
definitely, right, Tyler?
That's
Start
what we
on
were
that.
thinking.
Is that like a... Were you guys thinking that, or was that just a really good idea?
This is called crowdsourced game design, Keir.
It's
I'm embracing it.
we're just gonna
You
put a
gotta- you
fancy
gotta
label
claim
on
it.
it and do a GDC talk about it.
You got to claim it as crowdsourced, though.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a sweet idea. I like that idea. Or when he gets close to death, he has a chance to explode on his next turn.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that would be pretty cool. Yeah, actually, we don't have an attack right now that's damage yourself. So yeah, the way we would do it is it could just be a damage
He's below
yourself.
5% health, he casts like self-detonate or whatever.
Yeah.
I like the idea of he decides he's gonna do a mushroom explosion, and then based on how much health he has left, that's how much damage he does.
Well, that's cool. So we could do it like first thing.
Yeah.
If you fight two of them, yeah, the one guy's just like, I got this one, boys. Boom.
Hmm.
We got another crowdsourced game design suggestion.
Sweet. I
Awesome.
love them. Yeah.
Is it possible to be infected with the spores that eventually grow out and kill the character, turning them into a fun guy?
That's awesome.
I think the way we would do it is you'd get a quirk called like fungicide or whatever, and then that would kind of imply that he was wrestling with some sort of a fungal infection, and then you'd probably have to burn that off in the sanitarium. Maybe if left unchecked, it gets worse and worse or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting suggestions for the spores mind controlling the characters.
Yeah, juggling up the order of the party, so they start wandering around.
Might be from LM Purtis.
Old LM Purtis.
Yeah.
He's out past the Waitley place.
Yeah, we do. We do already have like that confusion mechanic. It's kind of like, it's sort of a random repositioning. So that would be a great enemy to put it on for sure.
Yeah, he detonates, does a little bit of damage, and then juggles everybody up. That's sweet.
Yeah, it could be.
Your fucking arbalist wakes up and she's face to face with a ghoul. Like, oh god, how did I get in the front?
I
I don't know
have
if we're
a,
planning on having multiple mushroom guys, but them having different spore abilities could be cool.
I think we should make all the monsters in the game mushrooms and then just call the game Spore.
Spore?
Spored as
Spore.
in you were bored playing Spore?
What about spored
Spore.
friends?
And then we might accidentally get a lot of coverage for the word spore.
I like spore.
I'm looking here, like, I already had confusion on,
Yeah, because we have a boss plan to use
Yeah.
that mechanic. And we're going to use it elsewhere.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question about the Weald.
Okay. I'm going to switch to color here in a second, just
Ooh.
because.
Yeah. Second half, this is where it always pays off. If you can survive the first half, then boom comes
Thanks,
color.
Tyler. Yeah, if you can just wade through the first 30 minutes of bullshit.
But in the Weald, I'm wondering if you're going to come across like some creepy looking plants and then you can choose to touch them or not.
Yeah, absolutely. For the interactive object stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like everyone's seen a ton of the Crypt stuff where it's like, oh, the Iron Maiden. Well, if anyone's watched videos, I mean. But those curios, yeah, would be theme specific, so.
And you got to pick the guy you want to look at it. So before you go sticking your hand into stuff, you'll look at your party and be like, well, he's pretty high health with decent, like pretty low stress. He's the guy sticking his hand in the thicket or whatever.
No.
So it'll be your fault, whatever happens.
That would be that's a bad move.
Why?
I didn't think reaching into a bush, like, that's just not a good idea.
Oh, I like old Flash Gordon, where they have the planet where when the kids come of age or whatever, they have to put their arm into the hole, and then there's these venomous creatures, and it's basically like Russian roulette. Like, if you put it in the wrong hole, you get bitten and killed. But if you make it into the right hole, well, that just sounds really bad. Anyways, if you survive, then you're now a warrior or whatever.
To be clear, you're not talking about intercourse.
I'm not touching. I'm just gonna keep moving here.
I'm just confirming. All right, I'll do some color.
Yeah.
While you do some color, we're gonna do some more questions. Maybe if you run out of food, you can pick the mushrooms, and there's a chance you eat some magic mushrooms. Maybe the chance decreases for some classes, like the female barbarian class. Sorry, I forgot her name. It's okay. Hell yeah.
Okay, so I gotta still tidy up his line art a little bit, but I'll do color. I'll show you guys the approach to coloring. The Drawbarian has a different approach to things. He's a crazy man. He goes without source art and just commits everything. And I don't have the
He has
strength.
commit.
Yeah, I don't have the strength of his convictions. So I do things a little bit more cautiously. I also don't have his speed, so if I make a mistake, I can't just quickly redraw it.
You also don't have any bandanas.
I lack his street appeal as well. So what I do is I
Oh god, Jesse's just.
I know, he's such a jerk.
We got another
ninja
question in
fast.
from Jesse. Is the video playing at 1/4 speed or
Yeah,
something?
because I'm not as fast as Jesse. Is what he's getting at.
You should just speed up the video.
Should speed up his face.
Whoa.
Am I right, boys?
Does Jesse just work 2 hours a day? Does he just get it all done in 2 hours and then take the rest of the time off?
Nobody was laughing, telling me that they had to redo all their environment art. He's like, ha ha ha, I drew it at the wrong res. Lols. I'm like, I would be at a bar, like, just frustrated and alone and sad if that happened. Anyway, my line is set to multiply on top. And then I have my color layer that I just used a mask to fill in. And I lock the transparency so I don't overpaint. And then I just go to town. I need to load up the giant though to get the colors right.
Oh yeah, you've shown the giant. Oh, that was last week, right?
Here's the giant. Oh.
I don't think people have seen this guy yet in this pose, but
Are those toes on his necklace?
yeah.
You.
Those are some big toes.
Well, I kind of have to mess with the scale a little bit to make it work.
I know. Maybe there are other
Suspension
giant
of disbelief, Keir.
Sorry, this spore giant he's not real to me.
Okay, so then I've got the giant paint layer. This is kind of how I can tell if something like looks alright. Is if here, let me get rid of the occultist. If it looks okay with just the colors, and you can tell kind of what's going on, then I know I did an okay job. That's kind of my litmus test. But I can slip it underneath my line art layer, and so that I keep everything nice and consistent, I'll just find a spot where these mushrooms are nice and green and blotchy. That looks pretty good. And I'll just take this and move it over here.
Whoa, this is cool.
Stretch it around. That looks pretty good.
And this is how you make sure the color palettes match?
Well, yeah, because I want, I want all the guys to be roughly, consistent with their mushrooms anyway. Like, I don't, he's still going to have, I guess, some skin tone peeking through. But I want to use the same greens everywhere so that it's like clear that it's all the same kind of fungus.
Mushroom consistency seems to be high on your
It is indeed.
importance meter.
And then I can just always select my underlayer and then invert that and blow everything else away.
And he's done.
We're getting there.
Wow, Chris should have never shown us this trick. Now we know what he's really doing.
Playing WildStar, guys. But now I can just select colors from the character itself, with the confidence that what I'm picking is always going to be right, or at least consistent. If you can't be right, be consistent. Be consistently wrong.
Well, time to test if we'll be consistently wrong with another question. Can one of the enemies eat other enemies to heal themselves?
Whoa, that's cool.
Too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally. I get it.
And then you just hear Tyler's keyboard like clack, 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 clack. Enemies will be able to eat another enemy.
Yeah. That's the fun of building like a system, though, kind of like.
Yeah.
Now, and I think we've talked about this in past streams and stuff, or actually we talked about this a lot in the GameSpot article about the bounty hunter that came out last week. Plug for GameSpot, TM. And it was just the idea that...
GameSpot.com, not GameSpot.tm.
Well, true. Now you've got me off. The question bus took a sudden detour and threw me off my feet. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so you build the system. We've got the core of combat, and that's all working. So then it's. I really like the modular sort of design of like, okay, then you say, oh, could someone do this? Could someone do that? Could someone do that? And then you just layer all that in, and it's kind of like adding maybe a color to your palette every time, and then all of a sudden you realize you have all these colors available, and really looking forward to seeing different combinations of monsters, creating different challenges, and I say looking forward to just because we've got it in our heads, and there's a bunch of monsters in the game now, but adding more and more is just really fun, because then you start having weird situations happen in combat that spawns other ideas and so forth. So yeah, keep the ideas coming. It's fun.
I'm legitimately looking forward to early access for that reason. I want to see what people come up with. I hope we're in a position where we can kind of take a few of the ideas that kind of come to light for test drive.
And also, the cool thing about that idea is, in general, from a design philosophy, we're trying to avoid lots of unnecessary healing and things like that, especially where the enemies are concerned. Like, enemies healing enemies prolongs a fight, sometimes for not a good reason. It's cool if there's, like, if that's to create a cool challenge, but I like the idea that someone might be able to heal themselves, but at the cost of something else. So then it's more like this enemy got stronger, but it reduced the total amount of enemies in the fight. Just because, with the exception of boss battles, which are different, our goal isn't necessarily to keep you in every fight for a long time. So that's cool.
It's fun to have guys that you can like just rip through,
Yeah.
Round one, and you just basically dogpile them, shut them down, move on.
Yeah, there should be a feeling of change of pace. Like, it's fun to come up against 4 skeleton militia, like you said, plow through them, and then maybe the next fight is like 2 defenders and 2 arbalists, and then you're like, holy cow, these guys feel tough as nails because I'm having trouble whittling my way through them. Mm-hmm. And then the combats feel very different.
Sometimes I'll throw in a little multiply layer up top there just to get some shadows.
You know what I find interesting about art, the process of art, and this is like, you know, I do a lot of spreadsheet work, and I like precision in terms of, doesn't mean like final accuracy, because there's still a lot of huge assumptions like in what I do, but the intimidating thing I think about like visual art and like what you're doing there is, you know, there's no scale for you to go, oh yes, that is correct, you know? Like, oh, should I add a tiny bit more brown, or maybe another blotch, or, you know, make the arm a little thicker? Like, it's kind of, I find it very stressful, the idea of like, just when to stop, you know? When to go, okay, yeah, he's done.
Yeah, sometimes you can overnoodle things. For the game, though, the sheer amount of content keeps me pretty checked out. Not checked out mentally, like, keeps me distanced enough from each particular asset that I'm not like in love with it and spend way too much time than I should on it.
So you kind of get it to where you feel like, yep, okay, this.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like consistency. It's just, I mean, I want the game to look great. It's got, you know, my drawings are all over it. I don't want to cut corners or, you know, make myself look bad. But just you hit a point where it's like kind of diminishing returns, you know. That's part of the reason why our art style is like this too, is just to give a little bit of latitude so people expect that like loose brush strokes and everything are okay. So if I can sell people on that idea, then it means I can make more content.
It's certainly cool because, yeah, you have to fill in all these details yourself, and it's like, maybe gesture's not the right word, because I know that has another sort of connotation with art, but yeah, you're giving the impression of what it is sometimes, and then you can kind of fill in a little bit of the missing detail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see even on like so even on a big guy, where's his idol here? Like, he looks pretty tight from back here, but if you get in there, you know, there's a lot of just, I don't know, simple lines and abstraction, and you know, edges don't all match up, and the color's really loose. Like, I have it where it needs to be, but it's pretty blotchy. It's pretty impression-y.
Yeah. That's the shader. I see Kelvin on that. He's on the stream. I think he's thinking, remove the line shader. It would have a very distinct look. Hey, question bus. Can we send the question bus? What is it when we ask them a question?
I assume different characters will have different HP amounts. Will they also have different stress HP available to them?
I'm gonna invoke the designer's obscurity on this one, but no, not directly, but yes, because of maybe strengths or differences in the character. So for simplicity, yes, hit points will vary, definitely, but we're kind of making the assumption that, you know, more or less a mind is a mind, and so, you know, no, they'll have the same. But there's some classes that have like the leper is a strong example. He's got some, he has just an innate stress resistance, so he's effectively got more stress hit points, if you want to look at it that way. It's like he has more stress mitigation, just because that's really inherent to what his class is. So far, trying to avoid stress healing as a skill that characters could have, it could be really cool, but you know, the game is ultimately about all this psychological stuff, and
if you can heal it away, like you can already at camp too, so it's,
yeah, I mean, that's what camping's for. So we never want you doing a potion or whatever. And I guess where I'm getting at is, I don't want to necessarily make the stress stuff itself really vary all over all the characters. I think it's cool that maybe the leper has something different and maybe someone else will, but in general, the idea is all these heroes, you know, are in the similar boat. Like, you never know who's going to break. It could be the big guy with the gun, or the, you know, it's the whole aliens thing again. The person who holds it together and gets through it all is the civilian, you know, consultant survivor or whatever. So, Ripley.
But you had a question for the chat.
Yeah, I was just curious if most of the people are Kickstarter backers or discovered the game later, or that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of curious about our audience consistency. Or saw us at PAX or that kind of stuff.
I'll never forget the first day I saw you.
Who is that directed to?
You, Keir.
Okay.
That was magic.
I wasn't sure if that was to me, to Tyler, somebody in your house.
No, that was a golden bullet shot straight for your heart.
What did he say? He'll never forget the first day. What? All right, I missed it.
Everybody seems to be a backer. So far, 100% of the people are backers that let us know where they know us from.
Wow. 100% of respondents so far. So then we could be really clumsy with our data presentation and say all
anybody who's watched this
Twitch watchers are backers. That's awesome, guys. Yeah, thanks for all the support. Obviously, we're working hard. And
Kojipa's sad when we talk about PAX.
We'll
be another PAX.
Right. But I think he's Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is.
So him and me are in the vote for PAX Australia.
Cool. Thanks, Depression Core.
I didn't know there was a vote for PAX Australia. I love Australia. I would definitely go to PAX Australia.
So that's 3, 4, and...
I'm loving Australian movies and TV lately. I don't know what it is. I've been on this run of really good stuff.
I never watched... The closest thing to an Australian TV show I've watched was The Real World Australia.
That's fucking pathetic.
I was 21, and that's the age that MTV makes sense.
I suppose. I shouldn't be too hard on you. You have your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, this is dating it, but I remember Real World 1. Take that.
It's crazy that they have that. They have this fucking, like, athletic competition show with, like, all old Real World people. And, like, some of them have made a career, like, doing these physical challenges against each other. It's weird.
Oh.
So completely unlike the real world.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got drunk a lot? Well, now you're going to climb this rope against this other person. And then you vote people into competitions and the loser goes home. It's a weird thing.
I was going to add, I think it was Rev Rocks asked earlier about the progression and difficulty. The only thing I was going to add is we are dropping different monsters in throughout the progression. So, like, all monsters, for example, won't be in the difficulty 1 dungeons. So we're going to be using a mix of, like, okay, like, you know, this guy, for example, might not show up till difficulty 3. But some of the monsters you fought in difficulty 1, they might have an increased hit point version, you know, that you're fighting as well. So there's always going to be a good mix of new stuff that you're encountering. That will change the monster groups out a lot and stuff like that. So it should be pretty interesting. That doesn't again answer all the New Game Plus questions yet, but it's not like you're going to see everything in the low difficulty dungeons and then things are just literally scaling up across the board.
Yeah, and I know that Brooks and I would love to give those advanced versions of monsters like different art, you know, even if it's like just armor them up a little bit more or something. But we have to make sure we can do the rest of the whole game first and then circle back on that stuff.
So in the art world, they say your circle's complete. Is our stream complete now that we're coming up on 5?
Yeah, that's our allotted time. It goes by fast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to Brooks and see him about animating the Necromancer boss for next week. That'll be nice. I won't have to be on pressure, and we'll get something different going on instead of just the drawing.
Does the Necromancer have his confirmed name yet?
No. You can see it's conspicuously absent from that backer update because I couldn't think of anything that I really liked and I didn't want to just
I missed
wing
you.
it.
You're like, I'm gonna call it the Necromancer, and I was like, we could do cooler.
No, that's not how it. I said we can do cooler, and I said, how about thaumaturge? And you're like, that's terrible. And I'm like, it is pretty bad. So no name at all for right now.
The Nameless?
Yeah.
That's too Dark Soulsy.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Cool. So, yeah, here's where he's. Oops.
Oh.
Where's that down? Here's where he's at. It's kind of funny. But I think that, let me see here.
Oh, man. Creepy. Oh, yeah, put all the woodsies together.
Yeah, we'll check them all out here in a row. I gotta be careful. We're gonna blow through all our content. Not have anything to show.
Rio Bucks has got a pretty good name for the Necromancer. Eye Laser the Necro Summoning.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
I sometimes panic about what game design is going to be like in 20 years. When
You just wake up in the middle of the night.
What
Like a
happened?
Minecraft.
Oh, no, just like all the names are taken. So, like, it'll be like you have to do, like, come out with, like, : names because there's so many games being made and all the names and properties will be taken and websites and everything. So, like, if we want to do Darkest Dungeon 20 years from now, it would be like the Dungeon of Dark : Revenge of the Corrupted Weald :
Yeah, they've rebooted them.
Rise of the Cove Fish People.
I mean, they just called it Tomb Raider.
Or there'll be no more names. It'll be like Tyler Sigman presents 77384B, the new first-person shooter.
Actually, that
Or
would be
the other thing you can do is buy, when companies go under, like buy their IPs.
right. Well, yeah, it's kind of like that's going on in comics a little bit, like the standpoint of, they're having to really drill down the Marvel catalog to come up with shit that come up, oh, right, this guy, which is a fan favorite from 1972. And it's like, whatever happened to making new characters? Anyway.
Cool. Well, I guess that'll do it for us.
And on that note.
On that, at the end of Tyler's rant,
We're
we're gonna sign off, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. We're gonna start doing some of those getting that going, and yeah, shoot us an email if you got any questions or comments, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, it's awesome. We appreciate everyone coming on. The questions are fun, and hopefully the mix of beautiful art and
Beautiful people.
bad puns and absolutely top shelf question buzz driving keep you all entertained week to week.
All right, good night, guys.